Just sit and be quiet, okay? I need a picture. He said it quickly, without turning around, without slowing down. The elevator was already going up. His fingers tapped on the phone. She walked beside him, in heels that pinched, and with a bag that held neither passport nor money. She didn't say who she was, and he didn't ask. Half an hour ago, she was sitting in the corner of a small office cafe. Behind the glass, the usual rush. In front of her, a cup of cheap tea and a newspaper with blurred ads. She was looking for a job. Again, a law degree, no connections, interview, promises, we'll call back. And again, the agency, again a side gig, again the waitress uniform. Victor came in quickly, alone, with a briefcase. A quick glance around the hall, he ordered coffee. While he waited, he looked around the room. Irina didn't look, but she felt it. He had noticed her. He approached, as if it were obvious. Urgent question. I need a girl for the evening, escorting, like a bride. There's a dress, everything's ready. Your task is simply to be. No nonsense. For this, an amount that suits you. Are you coming? She looked up. He looked straight ahead, confidently, without a smile. He didn't even ask who I was. He simply chose. Based on appearance? Like picking a suit from the rack? Yes, she replied. Calmly, without explanation, without questions. In the office dressing room where she was brought, the dress was already lying there. It fit her. Thick fabric, calm color, covered shoulders, shoes on the edge of comfort, but bearable. A thin clutch in the bag. She changed silently, fixed her makeup herself, tied her hair into a neat bun. She looked at herself in the mirror almost detachedly. Today, I am someone's bride. Not a lawyer, not a specialist, just background. When he saw her, he nodded approvingly. Great, let's go. He didn't introduce himself, but his name, she knew. Viktor Sergeyevich Borodin, 38 years old, owner of a large tech group, aggressive, composed, public. He didn't like justifying himself and couldn't stand waiting. He repeated it again in the car. Just be quiet. I'll tell you everything you need to know. You just have to sit and smile. We have a history, but no one cares what it is. She nodded. He took it as agreement, but for her, it meant something else entirely. I know how to be quiet. I don't know how to be empty. The hall was modestly but expensively decorated. Soft lighting, crystal glasses, muted music, name cards on the tables. Every man had a companion. Victor led her to the table confidently, as if she were truly a part of his life. Irina, my fiancée, he introduced. Someone raised an eyebrow. She nodded, sat down. Steady gaze, not a single word, just a picture. The conversation began immediately. No long introductions. Topics, figures, charts, control packages, project capital. Irina stayed silent, but she understood and analyzed everything. The partner's voice, the one sitting opposite, felt too smooth to her. Streamlined phrases. But she didn't interrupt. It wasn't the time. Victor seemed pleased with himself, tossed out short phrases, joked sparingly, poured wine. He turned to her several times with a half smile and whispered, "You're so smart. That's how you should behave. Not a word more." She nodded again, but something was building up inside her. Not offense, not anger, but knowledge. You want me to be silent, and if I say a single word, everything could change. And maybe now's a good time to pause. If this story is drawing you in, let it. Sometimes silence says everything. And sometimes it's what breaks the silence that changes everything. If you've ever felt invisible or overlooked, keep listening. But for now, silence. For now, the game. Victor held himself confidently, no trace of recent haste. At the table, he was in his element, collected, precise, clear. He knew when to pause, whom to look at, when to lean back in his chair as if everything was under control. Sometimes he'd place his hand on Irina's wrist as if showing closeness. She didn't flinch, but she wasn't playing in love either. She just sat and listened. The hall was filled with hushed whispers, the gentle clinking of glasses, and a barely perceptible tension that hovered above the official phrases. The topics continued: assets, international partnership, access to technology, shares in the new structure. Irina followed everything. She understood how the lines of control were drawn, who listened politely, and who agreed because they had no choice. She didn't know all the details, but she sensed the risk. The partner, gray-haired with a soft voice and long pauses, was setting the rhythm. And that was alarming. He wasn't pushing, he was leading. His voice was like music, but in that music were notes Irina recognized. Too smooth. Once she studied something similar. Course, contract law in corporate practice. Topic, indirect control transfer through simplified restructuring. Her teacher had said, "The loudest falls begin with those who are too confident." She remembered it then, and now she felt it. Victor felt like the master of the evening, confident in his appearance, his silent bride performing perfectly, the wine at the right temperature, the conversation coming to a close. He leaned toward Irina and whispered, "Everything is going as it should." Outwardly, she remained calm. Inside, something stirred. You want silence because you're afraid of hearing what doesn't fit your picture. But a picture isn't a guarantee. Sometimes words save. They placed the documents on the table. Final draft of the agreement. Everyone shifted slightly. The soft-voiced partner leaned forward. "Everything is here. Just confirm with your signature." Victor took the pen, confidently, like someone who doesn't doubt. Irina leaned closer. His eyes skimmed the lines. She caught the right one. A new clause, legal wording, but a clear substitution of terms. If he signed, he'd give up management rights with no possibility of review. He'd be joining a union, but the initiative would no longer be his. It's like chess. The queen's already surrounded, but he doesn't see it. She tensed. Her heart pounded, but her hands were steady. She tracked the point. Appendix B. The footnote mattered. There was the key. She could have remained silent. He paid her. She was the bride. But if she left without speaking, he would lose. And she would lose herself. Irina leaned over quietly, almost imperceptibly, and said, "There's a serious substitution of concepts. If you sign, you may lose the company. I can explain." Victor froze. The hand with the pen hung in the air. He turned. There was no irritation in his gaze, rather surprise. "How do you know?" Irina met his gaze calmly, for the first time that evening, fully. "Are you serious?" His voice was quiet, but heavy with tension. He didn't shout, just froze, the pen still in his hand, the paper in front of him, but his eyes were on her now. Irina didn't look away. She spoke calmly. Item 3.2 grants the counterparty the right to out-of-turn authority transfer even with a partial loss of share. Appendix B links to an article amended 6 months ago. Responsibility boundaries are different now. This puts more on you than you think. Victor was silent. A thick pause fell over the table. Some sipped wine, some tensed. Seconds passed like minutes. Then a balding partner smirked. "Victor, you've got not just a beautiful woman, but a consultant." He sipped. "She'd replace my whole team." Another man, younger and smug, added, looking at Irina, "At least she sounds like she knows what she's talking about. Or is she just repeating pretty words?" Irina didn't reply. She wasn't speaking for them. She was speaking for him. Victor fired back, a witty retort, making it clear he wouldn't tolerate mockery. But his face had changed, not angry, just composed. He put down the pen, took his phone, and sent the document to his lawyer. The reply came quickly. She's right, substitution. Implicit, but significant. Victor leaned back. It's rare to see someone like that admit anything, especially a girl who wasn't even supposed to speak. Smart. On point. Victor looked at Irina again. Differently. No arrogance, no rush. A pause in his gaze. He fell silent, not because he was waiting, because he was thinking. Then he addressed the table, calmly. We'll review. We're not signing tonight. The evening changed its rhythm. Some finished their wine, some left early, some exchanged glances. Victor remained seated, quiet, not touching the papers. But something in him had shifted. They walked into the hall. He said nothing. Through the silence, security, and empty corridors. The elevator didn't move for a long time. Victor turned. Who are you? Irina, lawyer with honors. So far? Waitress. But I hope for a short time. He nodded, slowly. I was wrong, not just in the agreement. A pause. You said you're looking for a job. Try mine. She didn't answer right away, just looked, calm. Depends on the circumstances. He smiled. No joke, simple, human. Let's start with coffee, tomorrow, at the office. He offered to drive her home. She declined. I'll get there myself. Thank you for the evening. And she walked away, calm, without looking back. He stayed and watched her go. If this part made your heart pause, if you've ever wished someone would finally see what you're capable of, this story is for you. Take a deep breath. You're not alone. And there's more ahead. A little over 3 months later. The office was quiet. Irina was at her desk, reviewing a contract. Her third fully entrusted project. No supervision, no double-check her. Victor said, "You'll manage." If anything, I'm here. But she no longer needed to ask him. Everything was on track. It didn't start with a big announcement, not with a stay forever proposal. They met the next day, as planned. I have a vacancy, junior lawyer, project-based. We'll see from there. Same terms as everyone else. No exceptions. She thought and agreed. Because earning it through knowledge is worth more than earning it through appearance. The office was simpler than she imagined. The team, mature. No one was surprised by her youth. No whispers. Just accepted her as someone new, and then one of their own. The first week, she spoke little, listened, absorbed, learned. In the second, she suggested a correction in a partnership agreement. They listened, implemented it. Since then, they started asking her. One day they went to a negotiation. Victor kept his distance, professional boundaries, no hand on hers, no image, just respect. Sometimes a pause in his gaze, sometimes interest, always respect. Sometimes she'd catch his eyes and feel. He remembered that dinner. Irina still lived in the same apartment, now with her own money. No more credit cards. She didn't count every ruble anymore, but she didn't waste either. Her life didn't become great, but she became part of something real. She was on the right path. In the evening, she sometimes recalled that dinner, sitting at the table where no one knew who she was and where, for the first time, she spoke up. Not to stand out, but because she couldn't stay silent. And that was the beginning. And if you've come this far, maybe now it's your turn to begin. A recent discovery, a mysterious purple shell, is stirring curiosity. Some say it can help triple fat burning during sleep naturally, without strict diets or intense workouts. It's just a shift, a quiet change with deep impact. The details? They're in the video description. If your body is asking for change, if your energy is low and your confidence buried, this might be the moment. Go take a look. Your journey matters. One spring evening, Irina heard colleagues discussing a new project. Victor suggested bringing her in. Irina knows how to rephrase. She heard it. didn't interrupt. Thought to herself, it doesn't matter what it's called. What matters is not forgetting who you are, even if you're just there for show. Leaving work, she saw Victor in the lobby. He stood by the window, talking on the phone, then silent, looking at her. "Coffee?" She nodded. They drank in silence. Then he said, "I didn't act very nicely that night." "You acted like you always do," she replied. "But the world is changing. I'm glad you stayed." "And I'm glad you've changed." He smiled. No words. After coffee, Irina walked home along Evening Street. Lamplight reflected in puddles. It smelled of damp and spring, her mind full of to-dos, emails, tomorrow's plan. She didn't feel like a hero, not triumphant. But inside, there was a quiet feeling. I came to where I was supposed to be. Like and subscribe to not miss the next story. And tell us in the comments, where are you listening from? We'd love to know.